there, and welcome to Sweet Child of Time. I'm Steve Barnes, your host, and this is Sweet Child of Time After Dark. I just thought of that just now. What do you think of that, Lindsay? Is that a pretty good tag we could do there? Sweet Child of Time After Dark?
Sure.
Yeah, you're Lindsey Dunn. Hello, my co-host.
We're on episode 5 and we just came up with the name. Yeah. Ahoy!
Ahoy there, Lindsay. Yeah, we're starting out great here. Yeah, episode 5, Truths is what we're recapping today. We're, of course, still doing Dark, and this episode is called Truths. And I love this episode because we got to see a good amount of some Jonas in there. You were saying before how he's been kind of lacking. But we got a lot of Jonas this episode.
Yeah, we got a lot of Jonas. We also got a lot of back and forth between the time periods that's starting now.
Oh, I love that.
We'll do like 2019 and 1986. We're not staying in one or the other and watching the time periods side by side.
Yeah, and that's how we kind of start this episode out, like having the side by sides. I like that a lot. That's what really sealed the deal for me with this show is like those. It's just so simple. Just take the picture of the person from 86 and put it right next to a picture of them from 2019, and it's the same person. It's so simple, but so effective. It's great.
Right. They do a lot with montages.
Yeah.
We always have the montage that happens 20 minutes before the episode ends or 15 minutes, whatever it is. But it, even though you could be like, okay, we get it, that's that person. But honestly, I feel like a lot of people, including me, watching it the first time, did get very confused with all the people and like, who's that dude? And so it is kind of nice for them to reinforce, that this person is this person. Even though, like, to be fair, the first pair we saw were Charlotte and Egon. And obviously they're not the same person, but they put them next to each other because they're both investigating the case.
Right. But when they do it with the two characters, I think it's really helpful, and I like how they do that. And for some people, it's really obvious. Like Hannah looks like her counterpart so much that it's not even really necessary. And Ulrich too, for that matter. But like with Katarina, I'm glad they gave that to us to remind us, like, oh yeah, that's like his wife. It's not just like some random girl in high school he's messing around with. I'm getting like into some dark talk already. Before we get into the recap, we got to tell everybody what we've been up to. You're one of my stories over there. And anybody listening for the first time knows Lindsay. Anybody listening for the first time doesn't know that Lindsay does these written recaps for us over at oneofmystories.com. That's number 1. And you also do reviews and recaps for lots of other stuff. This week I saw you do How to Blow Up a Pipeline. Is that what the movie is called?
Yes, that's the name of the movie.
And that's the name of your podcast review. I listened to that.
Yeah, usually I keep the titles pretty simple. But yeah that was a first movie, actually second movie that's on my best movies of the year list already.
Okay.
So, and, great thriller and all that. I also saw Guardians of the Galaxy last week. I need to review that. And I watched Athena for the second time this week as well. If people haven't seen that, it's an excellent political thriller that is on Netflix.
Okay, so I can watch that. The other ones aren't out yet for us to see yet, are they?
The first two that I mentioned are still in theaters.
I didn't realize Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is already out there. That's how...
Well, that one comes out this Friday.
Okay, yep, see, you got me. Because I was pretty sure it hadn't come out yet. And I was like, okay, she's reviewed it ahead of time. That's good stuff. But you've already seen it, though, so you can give us some spoilers real quick, right?
Well, no, we're not allowed to give out spoilers, and I follow the rules.
Well, this is Sweet Child of Time. We don't follow the rules around here.
I'll spoil it for you to say it's a really great movie.
Okay, cool. I didn't like the first two. I probably won't like the third. I probably won't even bother seeing the third, to be honest with you, but I will listen to your review because I like to see what you think about stuff like that. I'll be on a podcast later this week called Bad Potatoes. And you asked me why they called themselves Bad Potatoes. It's because they're doing a play on Rotten Tomatoes. Instead, they're bad guys who sit on their couch and they're couch potatoes. But we're talking about the movie, what is it called? It's with a train. Snowpiercer. That's what we're doing.
Snowpiercer.
That's like a 2013 movie. And then I'm going to be on one of my stories later this week, I believe. And we're talking about another 2013 film, Under the Skin. Nate's choice from Voidmaster. It was his choice. I don't know. We kind of led him that direction, I guess, right?
I don't think we tried to have Nate pick, and we ended up giving him some choices, and this was perhaps the least offensive. I don't know. It's fine. We're going to have a great discussion, but it'll be fun to pair up with Nate again.
Yeah, right on. I'm looking forward to it. And that's not tomorrow. Anyways, right now is our recap of Dark, episode 5, Truths. Do you want to start us out with a recap, Lindsay?
Yeah, absolutely. In the last episode, we were hitting so many dead ends, and, we have a third boy that's gone missing, Yassine.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And in the show, the episode starts with the parallel shots of Egon, Charlotte, Hannah, Ulrich, and Inez in 1986 and 2019, reminding us, as we said, that the story contains multiple time periods, and we're watching these characters in both timelines. And they've aged 33 years, but everybody's stories seems to be repeating themselves in some way.
Oh,
back to that theme of doubling, right? We can go back.
Yeah.
Just because we left that past episode doesn't mean we've gone anywhere. And in fact, when I saw this episode was called Truths, Steve, I was thinking which episode? There was an episode that was 2, I think, that was Lies.
Mm-hmm, that's right.
So I was like, well, gosh, are they mirroring the episode titles now? So I had to look real closely at that, and I didn't see a really great pattern there they were doing. But we had our secrets, we had our lies, and now we're getting into some truths.
There are a lot of truths revealed in this episode, actually. So, I mean, this episode title is not lying to us.
Yeah. We also see Bartosz is trying to call Martha. Marta is trying to call Jonas. And nobody's trying to talk to the same... nobody's trying to talk to the same person. Yeah. They're all reaching out to a different person. It's a typical love triangle. Just a few things with the colors also that Ulrich is examining this game piece that is yellow in color. And I believe that might be one of the parts of Mikkel's magic trick that was under the cups, perhaps.
That's right. Yep.
But he's examining that very closely, something I had not noticed, just noticed for the first time in this watch. And Jonas is looking at that red cord, of course, that he got on the bike.
Yep.
So, I want to maybe hear all your thoughts about all of this, but one thing that always strikes me as interesting is we know Jonas is interested in Marta.
Yeah.
But he has this tendency when he's overwhelmed with stuff, he pulls away. So he's stuck on this red cord so much that he can't even talk to the woman he loves.
Right.
Yeah, there's not really a question, but I guess I'm just throwing that out as a... Yeah,
and I'm immediately thinking about how there's like a red cord wrapped around Martha, like later on in this episode. Right. That's where my head immediately went. When you said that he's playing around with a red cord, I was like, yeah, he kind of is later. He's kissing it later. And,
right.
I guess my biggest thought about too is maybe I'm veering off from what you were asking me, but we were talking about the, significantly, Hannah's doing the same thing again, like obsessing over Ulrich. But then you see Inez, and you see like young and old Inez, and I think that is like the first of like the 3-part reveal about Mikkel later in the episode. I think just putting those 2 Inezes together is like your first clue that perhaps, Mikkel could be Michael. I think that's like the first time that, I mean, it happened before this too. I mean, I think you were supposed to make that connection pre this episode, but they so significantly talk about that at the end of the episode. And this is like the first clue that you get that could be the case. The fact that, you know, that's Jonas's grandmother. And that's also, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
You would think, you know, looking at it now, you're like, well, that's pretty obvious reveal that, of course, this little boy is her son. But I do think it is quite a shock that, because there's ramifications to that,
right? That
you don't think about until it's made,
right? Because
you're kind of hoping, as with every time travel thing, you're wanting a resolution. You're wanting hope for poor Mikkel.
Sure.
You don't want to think that this little kid, or I guess we're probably talking about something a little too soon, but I'm just like, we don't want to think that this little kid gets stuck in this world and that he did one day make his way back. And there's this hope. And I think that's what Jonas has here is he's setting him on this path that he's hoping to fix things.
Sure.
And fix things for his father. And so it's for some reason it's not obvious.
It's not,
because we don't want it to be true.
It's not obvious that at this point that's the case. But I mean, at the end of the episode, they bang it over your head so like significantly.
Yeah.
So I was just pointing out that this is the first clue you could, there's like 2 clues before they make that big reveal. And this is the first one. Having the 2 Inez's side by side, you know, gives you a clue that that's going to happen later on.
Yeah.
I guess another thing, again, I'm veering away in wild directions before we move on. Our young guy, Yazim. I keep wanting to call him Yasmin and whatever.
Yazin.
The poor guy is, he's deaf. So we know that the birds were affected by their eardrums, the sheep, the people in the chair. We're thinking about these crazy sounds, but that's not going to bother our guy here because he doesn't have any eardrums to vibrate, right?
Well, he doesn't. His eardrums can't pick up vibrations and sounds, but does that mean that he doesn't use those hairs to orient himself in the world and know when he's facing up and facing upside down?
I bet he does. Okay.
I don't know enough about the anatomy of the ear, Steve, to answer that.
I don't either. I just thought it was significant that one of the kids missing is deaf, and we've been harping on eardrums so much. Yeah. And here's someone who, you know, his eardrums are not functioning properly.
But you mentioned Hannah, and that's something I did that stuck out to me in this part, because you had asked if like their meeting at the bus stop was planned or if she was following him, and I expressed that she's kind of a stalker. And she's here, you know, that's really emphasized because she's cutting out pictures and making a scrapbook all about Ulrich. But I did notice they also showed Hannah and Ulrich meeting again at the bus stop. So it did seem like it was a regular thing that they do, maybe.
I think you're onto something with the stalker thing. Maybe she makes it so that she arrives right at the exact same time that Ulrich does, so they have to walk to the next class together. Did you ever do that in school, like where you knew that your friend was going to be at a certain spot because of their class, and so you kind of like waited outside their class for them?
Yeah, see, and I never had any boyfriends in high school, but I knew friends that did that, like their boyfriend to make sure they were at this one spot, so that they could meet at the lockers for like 5 minutes or whatever between class. But that never happened to me. But yeah, I mean, I used to hang out at certain places that guys I had a crush on might come. Yeah, but it wasn't at school.
So you're a little bit of a stalker, but not at school. Just like
I can stalk with the best of them, as all librarians can.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah. Anything else for this opening?
No, I think I ruined enough when I brought up the whole Michael thing. I think I'm good for now.
Okay. So we're now in Winden in 2019, and the radio commentator lets us know that the third boy's gone missing and that no clues or progress has been made, just like with Egon. And there's angry crowds standing outside when Ulrich pulls up. And the camera shows Egon looking at evidence in 1986 and Charlotte in 2019, reminding us that both of them were stuck. And I actually was thinking, in another episode, the radio person was saying, while Egon's sitting there. So it's such a repeat here for Ulrich.
Big time.
He's experiencing all the dissension that Egon did in his time.
And why is he experiencing this angry crowd? I mean, this crowd is putting their anger on the wrong person. I mean, this is the guy whose kid is missing. So there's no reason for them to be all like, y'all cops should be doing more. He's like, I know I'm here. I'm here at the station. It's my kid. I'm trying, buddy. I just thought that was kind of weird how the crowd was, angry about the kids being missing. And here's one of the parents.
Yeah. Do people know that it's his kid, though? Like, no, I mean, obviously the people that are his friends do, but this general angry crowd of nameless people.
I'm sure. I mean, the kid's name is, Mikkel Ulrich's kid. What's their last name? What is Ulrich's last name?
Nielsen.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I'm sure they put the two together. Like, I don't know. Maybe they don't know. Yeah. I guess like those randos. I mean, if they're pissed off enough about the kids being missing, then they probably know some things about the case. I would think they're not just blindly out there. But I'm harping on something that's inconsequential anyway.
Okay, back at the Doppler house, Charlotte is interrogating Elizabeth about Noah, the man she met in the woods, and she tells Elizabeth about Yasin being missing and is asking her to really think about what it was like to meet Noah. And it seems like a pretty good conversation you might have with a witness, but this is her daughter.
Right.
And she's interrogating her like suspect number X. Elizabeth's kind of, she's very in tears, trying not to break down, but she manages to tell Charlotte that the man was as tall as her dad and he had blue eyes and wore a hat. And when Peter's kind of hovering in the doorway, and I almost expected him to speak up, while she was doing it, but he waits till, as good parents do, you're not supposed to argue in front of the kids.
That's right.
He waits until she's done to kind of corner her and be like, "Why are you talking to your daughter like that?"
I mean, he's right to be upset because she was being, a little cold with her. Especially, she was just missing. This is like her boyfriend. I mean, come on, Mom. I mean, but Charlotte is I keep doing that. Elizabeth is a pretty wise, well put together 8-year-old. She takes this information pretty maturely, all things considered, and is able to provide some information to her mom instead of just, like a normal 8-year-old might just get really upset. And that's all you can do is just, let your kid, cry it out or freak out. She had the wherewithal to answer questions from her police captain mom. And Peter was right about that. But Peter also, when Charlotte turned around and started interrogating him, which I know is where we're leading to next, which is what she does. She's like, "Where were you? It's your turn for the interrogation." He is really bad. He is very bad at deflecting, doesn't answer her questions directly, gets looks on his face when she asks certain questions. He still seems pretty guilty at this point. Like he can't answer her questions. He's deflecting.
Right. Yeah, he seemed to be a little bit at war with himself. I felt like he did want to confess because it wasn't like, with later on when Katerina asked Ulrich, "Are you cheating on me?" He immediately is like, "No, I'm not doing that." Peter, to his credit, has a real long pause before he negates everything. So I think he's sort of, at this point, Peter, before he was wanting to talk to Charlotte, right? He was calling her.
Yeah, that's right.
But the way that she's acting in this moment, he doesn't like so much that he's now doubling down and being like, he doesn't feel comfortable perhaps or safe.
She's got evidence. Because she's got hard evidence in his face. Here's your car. Here's this. Here's that. And so it seems to me like he's just cornered, and instead of like our boy Ulrich, instead of just coming out and confessing at the right time, you instead just double down and deflect. And
say the you're crazy defense. That's always like the perfect defense.
Perfect.
For a guy who doesn't want to answer any questions, just call the woman crazy.
Yep. This guy knows how to handle himself really well, doesn't he, Peter? Peter's lucky that we have Hannah in this episode to be worse than him. Otherwise, he'd be on my worst character list. Still, again, Peter, do something, buddy.
He's so I don't know, he's such a boring character, though, that it's hard to give him the worst because he's just kind of like milquetoast.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if it wasn't for Hannah, he might be in a contention. But as it is, he's too boring to even be thought about right now.
Well, back in 1986, Inez is trying to get Mikkel to talk, and she gives him a gift wrapped in yellow paper.
Nice. Yellow.
Yellow. Bright yellow. She's still just trying to get him to trust her, and Mikkel is not talking.
To her.
To her, right.
He talks to everybody else in this episode except for her. I think I even saw him talking to, I don't know.
Some random person.
Yeah, he just stops on you in the street. Hey, my name's Mikkel. What's up? No, but yeah, I thought that was very significant. I'm joking, but it is significant how he's not talking to her, but he is talking to other people around him.
Well, I wrote a note about this later, but, the someone he talks to or hinting at is Noah. And what I think is interesting about that is Inez is asking him about who he is, where he's from. Okay. She's not saying, you have to tell me what happened to you, but, she's interrogating him. She's trying to get him to talk about things that he's not ready to reveal or that are kind of sensitive or key information, whereas Noah and Hannah are just talking to him about everyday things.
Right.
And I know this is, we're talking about a show here, but I want to compliment the showrunners for just writing this, because it's very true that if you're in front of a kid that is traumatized, asking them questions about why they're traumatized does not work for opening up.
Right.
You have to start with small talk and, get them to warm up to you or talk to them. You don't go directly for the key information. You talk around it and you get them to get comfortable with you, and maybe you get to the point where they would talk to you about more important topics. But Noah is a great priest, because he gets people to talk, and but Inez isn't doing that. Even though, she's a very warm person, and we mentioned he was willing to go with her, but he's not willing to talk to her. Yeah, I thought that was interesting as well.
Yeah, you're right. She's just not asking the right questions. That's all there is to it. Or she's not phrasing her questions the right way. That's it. Everything else about her is correct. Her intent is, but yeah, I'm with you. I agree.
So back at the Wyndham Hotel, the stranger has completely filled the walls of his room with the drawings, which we saw before. And one of the images is a labyrinth and a lithograph out of the Minotaur, going back to the reference about Ariadne's thread, of course, and the Minotaur's maze. And now I was curious about this other drawing they showed for more than 1 second, but I had no idea what that was. Have you seen that before? The one that looked like a funnel going small and then...
Yeah, I've seen it before. I didn't identify it, though. I'm sorry to say. I can't I can't discourse on that, I suppose.
Yeah. I was counting on you, Steve.
I'm sorry. Let's see, a couple things. I was wondering, why not notebooks? Wouldn't that be so much easier to make like notebooks you could flip through? But I guess they want to give us this image, and that's fine. And then my only other note was that with his hood off and like without his hair coiffed or whatever, has his hair down flat, he looks like Radiohead. He looks like, he looks cool. He looks like Tom York. I just wanted to bring that up. Like he doesn't. He's like an English hipster. That's all I got for that scene. I mean,
yeah.
I'm sorry it's so flip, but
yeah,
they don't show us much here.
Yeah. A little bit later, I went ahead and put these scenes together. A little bit later, he goes to the desk and has another scene with Regina. And that's why I was laughing, because their interactions are always so funny to me, because he's like, are you leaving us already? She's just like, who is this weird guy? And he wants to keep the room, and he gives her a box.
That's right.
That reads Jonas Kahnwald.
I know that guy.
Yeah.
He's getting a present later.
Yeah. We don't know what's in the box, of course, but it's all very mysterious what he would be giving to Jonas. He already gave him a cord. So what else might he... Well, we don't see him give him the cord, but we're assuming...
He gave him some direction on the map, too. Like
That's right.
Wrote on the map.
Just goes into his room and while he's sleeping.
Yeah, at least now he's not sneaking in his room and leaving this stuff. He's like doing it the legal way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess why didn't he just leave the box in the room when he came? I guess it wasn't the right time.
Yeah, it wasn't the right time.
He had to wait till the right date.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's exactly right. He knows what he's doing here. He's clocking everything in. Mm-hmm.
Man, this must be a lot to keep track of. For our friend.
Well, yeah, so far we got a little bit. I think as time goes on, he's got a lot more to keep track of. I think these first few steps are probably the easiest, and as time goes on, it might get a little more complicated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it would be, I mean, we remember in episode 1, we had Inez like counting down the minutes till she opened that letter. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But imagine the stranger, how long has he been hanging out waiting to deliver this box, for instance? Like if you have it, like let's say theoretically that 5 years from now you need to deliver this box to this person. Like how hard would it be to like not just give him the box right now? I don't know. It's like
it'd be impossible. Yeah, it'd be really hard. But I guess if like fate depends on it, then I guess I would steel myself as much as I could. Right. It'd be tough, though. I don't know. It'd be pretty tough.
Back at his house, Bartosz is still trying to call Marta. You gotta, hand it to this guy. He doesn't give up easily.
No, he does not. Yep. Well, I mean, he's rich. These rich guys are used to getting what they want.
He looks at the cell phone that was from the bag of dope and sees the message that there's only one attempt remaining. So he did do a second one that we didn't see.
That's right.
And then the phone begins ringing from an unknown caller. Bartosz answers the phone, then a voice says, "Bartosz, this is Noah."
It's Noah again. And that's very surprising to all of us. Like, it was so fun. Like, the phone rang. That's exactly what you wanted to happen at that moment. And it happened. I was so happy about that. I'm curious about what this connection is. Like I've told you before, I told you what I remember about this show, but this is a thread that I do not remember at all. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with Bartosz, the drugs, the phone, and our new guy, Noah, who's been talking to Elizabeth and now Bartosz.
Yeah. Well, Hannah is having her own game of being ignored on the phone because Ulrich is ignoring her calls, and she decides to show up at his house, casserole in tow. Now, Steve, this would have been something she should have done earlier, right? Show up to help her friends out, deliver a casserole.
We discussed this in episode 1.
It's taken Hannah a while to get here.
Desperation. I don't think she's showing up here like altruistically. She's trying to mess around with her boy. I think she's back to her stalker genes again, just like when she was a kid.
Yeah, it would be. I wonder what sort of. Wish they would have showed us what casserole she made, just because we haven't seen Hannah cook anything yet. I mean, we haven't seen anybody cook anything, but all she seems to do is drink wine and smoke cigarettes. So
you're right.
And if you've ever, I don't know, been around a smoker, like their food sometimes smell like smoke. I don't know.
She smokes in the house too, openly. So the house probably stinks.
So Hannah's posing as the good friend and neighbor. Katerina doesn't really seem too excited to let her in, but she says, "Do you want to come in?" Because Hannah's just standing there in the rain. And so Hannah comes in and she's asking how the kids are, and oh, by the way, where's my good buddy Ulrich? And he's in the shower, comes down and finds Hannah, and seems not too pleased to see her.
Right.
He's going to go back to work, and Hannah asks for a ride home, and Ulrich has no choice. If he refuses, he looks like a total a-hole. But I did notice, Steve, that as Hannah leaves, Katerina gives her a hug and gives a big old sniff into the shoulder and the neck. There was nothing mistakable about this sniff.
Nope. And then she locked eyes with Ulrich right after she did that. So she knows, automatically she knows. And Hannah cannot read the room at all. She has no self-awareness whatsoever of what is appropriate and what's not, it seems to me. And his wife is like, yeah, of course. Yeah, give her a ride because it's raining. This is exactly what she wanted. It's exactly why she showed up. She showed up with a wet casserole in the rain on her bike. So you were talking about it being stinky. It's probably all wet too. So yeah, this was all planned, and it was an insincere gesture, really. Just I saw it as such because it was pretty clear that what she was trying to do and that she should not have come in there. Katerina is not ready for company whatsoever. It's clear.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to yell at Hannah some. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Marta's the one that answered the door. So before Katerina, Marta answered the door. And yeah, I was kind of wondering if Marta was sort of wanting to ask Hannah, how's Jonas doing? But of course, she didn't do that.
I didn't make that connection.
Trying to call. Yeah, she's been trying to call him. So it was such an awkward one of these scenes you're watching play out. So awkward in so many ways. Here's Hannah showing up, wanting to be let in. She's asking her questions, but it's not even coming from a place of true concern. Yeah. Yeah.
And we don't see the car ride at this point, right? This is the end of this scene.
We do not.
Okay, so I won't say anything else about that. Just that, the smell. I was pretty sure you noticed this sniff. The sniff in the high school hallway. She did the exact same thing, except there was you didn't really have much of the association at that time. But now Katerina's really on the ball now. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I heard you go. Were you going to the next scene, or we still have more stuff?
Well, I'm waiting for you to say you want to take a break.
Hey.
Is that what you were wanting to do?
Wait no more. That's exactly what I was going to do.
Okay.
Take a break. So we'll be right back. Hey, this is Steve, and we're back from break now. I lost a little bit of audio with me and Lindsey, but this next scene we're getting ready to get into is we got Bartosz and Jonas, and they're in Bartosz's house, and they're playing video games and smoking weed. And here we go with me and Lindsey. Yes.
Because Bartosz and Jonas certainly are.
Oh, okay. I thought we were going to do a quiz, and you're going to have me go smoke some weed ahead of time. Yes, the boys are having a good old American time here.
Yeah, this is what you do when I guess you can't get a hold of, you're drowning your sorrows about women. You just bro up and play some video games.
Makes total sense.
And Bartosz is almost, I don't know, not like Hannah's doing, but he's sort of doing the same thing with Jonas. Have you talked to Marta? You know, like,
He's
have you
better
heard from
at
her? He's a little bit better. He actually tries to hang out with Jonas here.
Yeah.
But he's lonely and isn't, is sad about Marta. So he's just playing these, they play video games, and he tells Jonas that he's meeting Eric's dealer tonight. And Jonas almost, seems to laugh for a minute, but Bartosz is like, nope, I'm serious, and I really want you to come, and can I count on you? And Jonas says, absolutely, always.
Always, right, Jonas? Well, I think his intention was, at this point, yes. I don't think he had any intention of, lying to Bartosz here, but, just things come up sometimes. Things named Marta. We got a confirmation that Jonas is in therapy and that Jonas was in an institution of some sort while he was allegedly in France. So apparently everybody did know that his dad died, but they did not know that he went into an institution. They just thought that, he was taking some time off in France, thanks to Bartosz. So we got a little confirmation on that story. Not like we were dying about it, but the confirmation is there nonetheless.
What do you think about their friendship at this point? Like in the first episode, you were not too hot on Bartosz, and of course we're set up to sort of not like him because we're in Jonas's eyes from the beginning, and we're kind of like, oh, you stole his girl, dude. But I don't know, what do you think now? Have you changed your assessment, or are you still like, man, Bartosz is a jerk?
No, he hasn't done anything to arouse my jerk meter. I mean, all he's trying to do is get in touch with Martha, and she's not getting back in touch with him. So for all we know, he's concerned about Mikkel too. Or, So no, I guess the answer is no. I don't see much happening that makes me dislike him right now as much as we did that first episode.
Yeah. He seems like a typical, he just seems like an average guy, I think.
Yeah.
But also you sort of, I guess I feel sort of bad for him that he was all into Marta and now she's avoiding him. That never feels good to be avoided. Right. And yeah, so you kind of feel like he's acting a little pathetic here. But not in a way that's despicable. He's just kind of being a little hangdog about the whole thing. Yeah,
and he shouldn't get. Now that you mention it, he does kind of snap at Jonas for doing a bad move in the game. But it's not like he snapped too hard. But he did kind of they did show us that he got upset with Jonas at a bad gaming move. So maybe that's...
No, I just thought that's
normal stuff. You're right. I'm grasping at straws here. I got nothing against Bartosz at this point.
Charlotte is examining the pocket watch that Noah gave Elizabeth.
Oh, we just got a quick shot of that? Yeah, so she doesn't recognize this, does she?
She's still looking at it and looking at the picture of Mikkel, and she's just in that room. The stranger has his murder board. Charlotte has her murder board, right, too, with all the clues. The scene doesn't last very long, but I did want to point out that Charlotte is still thinking about that pocket watch.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting cut because she looks at the pocket watch, and then the next scene, we meet Noah. We see Noah for the first time.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay.
And Noah's the one that, gave Elizabeth the watch.
Yep.
So...
Okay.
So back at the hospital in 1986, Noah is talking to Mikkel. And I love this scene. It's a great scene. He asks Mikkel if he believes in God. And like you said, Mikkel is ready to open up to Noah.
Yeah.
Noah's good with kids, apparently. We know he got Elizabeth to talk to him, that they had a good conversation, and Elizabeth didn't think anything of it, right? So,
yeah.
But I think when Noah asks if he believes in God, what sort of gets Mikkel to ask is he asks him directly about a topic that his father has talked to him before. Ulrich, he tells Noah, well, my dad says, so he's excited to talk about what his dad says, like kids are. Well, my dad says. I thought that was really cute. But he tells him that his dad taught him about the Big Bang and evolution. And like a good ministry person does, Noah doesn't argue or tell him he's wrong, but he congratulates him on questioning things.
Exactly.
But ends by saying that God has a plan for everyone, and sometimes it's also good to question people who question things.
He's right. I mean, you can't argue with this guy. I mean, I'm geared up to not like him based on a few things, but he treats Mikkel's skepticism very well and in good stride. And Mikkel, in turn, like treats this whole conversation in stride as well. He knows his science facts, and he's not afraid to, like, a man of the cloth. I mean, he's wearing like a priest uniform. Right. A lot of little kids might be intimidated by that, but Mikkel's not. He's got his facts straight.
And the talk, though, might be confusing for somebody like Mikkel. He's got, he has his beliefs that he's worked out. Noah, like we said, doesn't argue about him, but then it's like, well, I should question people that question things, so should I question you? I don't know. I was thinking this is like a rabbit hole discussion that could make somebody really think, and I think that would appeal to somebody like Mikkel, who clearly likes thinking about things. But I think it's also good. In this episode, we actually start coming into contact with the concept of worldview and characters who have worldviews and how they see the world. And Noah is one of the first people to espouse a worldview. He talks about that God has a plan for everybody. So if that's his philosophy he expounds to this child, then that must be his philosophy. And it might be the thing that drives him.
Okay.
So the show, I say all that because the show does eventually get into worldviews and clashing worldviews. Right. And we're beginning to get into that now.
I felt like I had a lot of notes for this, but I think you've touched on everything for that scene. That's a great scene with those guys.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry, because I mean you brought up all the great points that I wanted to bring up. So kudos.
All right. Well, so let me toss it over to you then to talk about our next scene, sitting outside the house in Ulrich's car, because you were anxious to talk about that before.
I don't know if I'm anxious to talk about it or not. I just remember like how uncomfortable the scene was. So Ulrich is giving Hannah a ride on the way to the station, apparently, and they're sitting in the car, and Ulrich basically tells her, you can't keep doing this, you can't keep calling, etc. Hannah's upset, and she tells him that he's not going to get rid of her that easy. And she's not going to stop calling him. She's pretty adamant. He does the old lean in, and almost for a second you think he's going to give her a smooch, but he doesn't. He opens up that door and is like, there's the door. Please leave, Hannah. And she gets out of the car, but she makes it clear that that's not the last we're going to see of her, and that she's going to keep bugging him. So kind of like, this is like an unstable connection that we have. Like that's what I was thinking about with Hannah here. He left her very unstable, so you do not know what she's going to do next. Maybe think about like an electric connection, how you have like an unstable connection. The lights might flicker, the light might blow up, it might go out. You don't know what's going to happen. You either take the light out or you put it in, one or the other. But it's left here kind of hanging, so we don't know where she's going to go next with this. And I don't know. Yeah.
This is a classic. I feel like this is a classic case of escalation, because we've already seen he started ignoring her calls. Hannah shows up at his workplace. Right. At that interaction, Ulrich is like, I can't do this right now. So I feel like he was sort of leaving the door open for the future.
Sure.
Or at least, not, he's not, even if he's not really thinking about ever doing the future again with her, he's giving her the nice opportunity there, right? Like,
right.
He let her hug him. He was trying to talk to her, let her know, like, I'm just going through a hard time right now. Basically, like, it's not you, it's me, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But now she's gone a step too far. He didn't like it when she showed up for work, but he really doesn't like it when she comes to his house and is sitting right next to his wife and bringing casseroles and trying to get his attention, and just 5 minutes with him in the car. I mean, what was she going to do? A quickie in the car, or come in and let's toss in the sheets?
I think she was ready for that. That's what she wanted.
Yeah.
I think that's
Can
the next...
Can you give me a ride,
I think the next step is like he's going to wake up and she's going to be like in bed between him and Katarina. She's like, hello. Got some rabbit stew for you over here.
Yeah, so this leads us right in to a flashback.
Oh, that's right.
Where Hannah, and beautiful set of flashbacks actually, where we go from one character's flashback to another character and then back to the flashback. So Ulrich and Hannah are walking down the hall of the high school together, and he's talking about the Breakfast Club.
Love it. And
the quote, "When you grow up, your heart dies." And Ulrich is just gushing about this movie and how great it is, and how the characters, you think they became friends, but no, they really just stayed in their own pigeonholes, and it was false, and the real story is bleak. Nobody actually improved and got better. They were stuck in a life, and that sounds like how Ulrich feels about his life.
Yeah, that's what he took from that movie, I guess. No future.
Yeah. And Hannah's thinking, hey, let's go watch the movie together, you and me again, Ulrich is just too tuned out, though. As soon as he sees Katarina, he's ready to just leave Hannah behind, and she tries to do the Nielsen hitting thing, but I guess her hits aren't as effective as Magnus's are.
Nope.
But yeah, he goes up to Katarina, and they hold hands, and they're going to go have a smoke together, and Hannah is just left behind. At this point, they cut back to 2019, and there's Hannah again, and she looks pissed.
Standing in the rain, alone again.
Mm-hmm.
Not only was that young actress who plays Hannah in 86 well cast because she looks like Hannah, she's also well cast because of her age. Like, she's obviously younger than Ulrich and Katarina. I mean, you can look at her and tell that, she's probably 3-4 years younger. She's shorter. It seems to me like she's less mature, right?
Well, I wondered if it was that she was... It's hard to tell how old they were there. It could, sometimes there are certain girls that develop faster than other girls.
Sure,
and
okay.
It could be either one. It could be that she's a few years younger. That's what I kind of assumed. But then again, is she just the type that looks younger? Because, at one point she looks down her shirt to see if she has any breasts.
Yep.
So it could be she's just a slow developer.
But poor thing, though. I mean, he's already going out with Katarina at this point. So, of course, I mean, no matter who he's walking with, he's going to see Katarina and go, oh, hey, this is my girlfriend. I'm going to talk to her. Hannah does not realize this. She's focused on her worldview. So, everything is from her perspective. So from her perspective, Ulrich's my boy. I'm talking to him. We meet up sometimes. We chat. I think he likes me, etc. She probably does, tell herself that he likes her at this point. She must.
Or I have a chance.
Yeah.
I have a chance.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he'll see that Katarina's not right for him, whatever. So, yeah, at this point, your heart kind of goes out to her a little bit. At this point. Yeah.
Just the same way your heart goes out to, say, Bartosz.
Sure.
Feeling sad that Marge is avoiding his calls,
Yeah. You don't love the guy, but at the same time, it's the situation they're in. It's like, poor dude.
So then back in 1986, we have Ulrich and Katarina sitting on a bench outside school. They're discussing if they will have sex or not. And Katarina tells Ulrich he has to get condoms because she does not want AIDS and she does not want kids.
Right.
And she repeats this several times. And Ulrich promises no kids.
Yeah, I think they make that point just to, for the irony, but also they're trying to make it clear here as well that this is like a consensual setup, that this is something that Katarina absolutely wants and they're discussing it ahead of time. So that kind of, if anything happens later, anybody accuses anything crazy, we know that Katarina is completely on board and consensual here.
Yeah. This conversation definitely confuses me just a little bit because it seems like they're boyfriend and girlfriend, they're holding hands in the hall and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But like this conversation seemed, I don't know, like do you remember when last week we talked about Franziska and Magnus and you just said that they were kids messing around and you meant it in a different context, but you were just like, these are just kids being frisky and
yes.
It's not necessarily like, oh, we're in love. Katarina isn't like, I'm so in love with you, I want to be with you. She's just kind of like, might as well be you. It's going to be somebody.
Right.
It's a very strange conversation. I know sometimes I think sometimes girls are like this, and that seems to drive guys wild. But, Katarina's just like, it's almost like two friends having sex rather than two people that are in love. What did you think about that?
I thought so too. It seems like a business transaction. Like, this is something we're going to do. So at first I assumed that, that Katarina was just like a super planner. Like she has like these goals in mind and that she has to like check these things off her list as she gets older. And so I just figured like this is one of her things. Like I'm gonna lose my virginity. This is what's gonna happen. But then like when I watched it the second or third time, that's when I was thinking this scene's pretty much just here just to show us that they're having a consensual relationship, just in case you missed anything. Yeah, that's kind of what I think. That this is just a plot server. I'm sorry to be so boring and mundane, but I do think that their cigarettes, they were a little too loose with those. Like when they were hugging and kissing, like his cigarette could have easily caught her hair on fire. I know she's wearing hairspray. It's 1986. I didn't like that.
Yeah. Oh, and there was a name of a band on his backpack or her backpack.
Oh, I didn't see that.
And yeah, I meant to write it down because I was going to ask you if that was a real band, but I forget what it is now.
Well, we're going to go back and look.
Yeah. Anything else about this scene?
Nope. Do not.
Mm-hmm. So back at the hospital, a worker from Child Protective Services arrives and tells Inez they're going to come back Monday and take Mikkel to a children's home. And Inez is not too happy with this plan, and she's really worried that a children's home would squash a sensitive spirit like Mikkel.
Right. So this is our big, strong second hint. Like this is step 2 of our 3-part reveal about Mikkel. Is like they're letting us know that Inez is kind of getting the I'm going to take care of this kid vibe. And it's coming pretty strong here. Yeah.
Back in 2019, Ulrich and Charlotte have a conversation in the police
this
station.
Is the scene, I think, of the show. I think.
Oh, wow. Okay. You think this is the scene of the episode?
I put a star next to it just because of what Charlotte says here. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. It's I thought this scene, I'm not sure I agree it's the most important scene, but it is a really interesting scene for many reasons. Number one, this isn't a conversation. This is like Ulrich's confessional. He's not, he's not really asking for help. He kind of wants someone to talk to.
Right.
It's also interesting that he talks very openly with Charlotte about the fact that he's having an affair. They're partners. I guess, partners talk, but it's, these are things he's not telling his wife, but it's just obvious that he and Charlotte have a good, honest working relationship. And although we don't ever really see her confess to Ulrich. I guess she kind of does hear a little bit about her grandfather, but...
A little bit, but...
Yeah.
I kind of almost got the vibe that Charlotte already knew about the affair.
Mm-hmm. I mean, she probably did.
Yeah.
But still, it's... he's not honest with most people.
Yeah, and she is one
Charlotte.
of the few. That's right. She gets the honor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's very ashamed that he's kind of taking after the person that he hated the most. And you alluded to this in a previous episode, Steve, that he perhaps became a police officer as an antithesis to Egon, like an FU to Egon. And he basically says exactly that here. He made the decision to become a policeman after his brother went missing and swore he would do everything different. And now he feels just the same as that person he despised. And he's cheating on his wife and a failure. And Charlotte mentions, he talks about it being 33 years ago. The number 33 comes up again. And so Charlotte then begins to speak about the 33-year cycle and that the calendars are off and that every 33 years, they're in alignment and things happen the same. Yeah, so you love this scene. So tell me how you feel about it.
Well, I think in the first or second episode when I made that prediction, I bet this is why Ulrich became a police officer. I think I subconsciously remembered this scene because when Charlotte starts talking about the 33-year cycle, that really keened my interest a lot. So I think I might have tucked this information away, and that's how I made that connection so strongly in that episode. Everything she says here is true, and the alignment is correct because every 33 years, our solar calendar, which is 365 days, syncs up with the lunar calendar, which is 354 days long. So they're slightly different, but every 33 years, they're exactly the same, and the position of the moon, sun, and the earth are the same as well. So I just love this whole concept, and I think I love her grandfather already, and I think I know who her grandfather is. Does the regular show watcher not know that at this point?
Right.
Because they haven't made any kind of allusions.
They do not know that, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I won't say. But, yeah, as soon as she started talking about her grandfather being obsessed with time, I was like, okay, that rings a bell now. But yeah, this seems like the kind of thing that a show would just kind of make up just to move the plot forward. Instead, I think the showrunners found out about this 33-year cycle and then based this show around a true, scientific anomaly.
Mm-hmm. So why do you think it's the scene of this episode?
For me, it's just a Steve Barnes thing because when she started talking about that cycle and just her and Ulrich, I just remember the first time I saw this show a couple years ago and how much this scene hit me and how that they kept talking about 33 and that number 33 is in my mind. And then Charlotte makes this, reference to 33. And then of course I Google it and I'm like, oh my God, it's true. What? And it's just such a neat revelation, I think. And so for somebody like me, I don't know. I just think connections are keen.
Yeah, they are keen. I think that it's almost like we've been hearing it seems like it's happening again. 33 years ago, I remember seeing birds like this. So it almost seems like overkill to me at this point to say it so specifically because it's well, we've already said that. But I guess in a way it's okay, now we're not going to hint anymore. We're just going to out and out tell you that there's this alignment of the lunar solar cycle, and it kind of lays a new step of the foundation for the show. So in that way, I can definitely see it's significant, and it is such an intriguing scene.
I mean, I can just tell you physically, too. Like, it made the hairs on my arms stand up when I was listening to Charlotte talk about this. So, it really excited me. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
That's why I got a star. A star.
A star. So, in our next scene, we have a meet cute.
Yeah, it is cute.
Between Jonas
Are they going to start dating?
And the stranger. And Jonas is sitting on this bench near his father's grave, and the stranger walks up behind Jonas and tells him that he knew Jonas's father, and Jonas kind of is looking around like, are you talking to me? Like, do we know each other? And the stranger mentions that, and again he does. It's funny when he says, do we know each other? And then the stranger pause.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
But
that's what we call a pregnant pause, right?
Yeah. But I knew your father. Same as Peter's pregnant pause, right? So Mikkel Kahnwald saved his life.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah. And then he begins speaking in the philosophical mumbo jumbo I put here that narrator and Noah and Steve seem to enjoy.
I do, but this wasn't the right time, stranger. I mean, you don't sit down on a bench and talk about death with a little kid you just meet. I mean, I don't know. I thought they came across a little heavy-handed here.
Yeah, he's talking about labyrinths and death and getting to the center and one true path and following that red cord. it's a little bit bonk.
Oh, I like the red cord thing. Yeah, he did make mention of that. The red cord he put on his bike, the red cord around Martha. Pay close attention, Jonas. I'm giving you lots of hints, Jonas.
Yeah, he's not good. He's not as good as Noah at this pillow talk, he's sort of beating Jonas over the head because he's like, now he will go to see the play and you just give me the red cord and I'm just going to say the words red cord and see if that strikes any. Yeah. But yeah, it's a fun scene here. He's got this suitcase with him and he's packing. He looks like he's going out of town and he just happens to stop by this graveyard to have a chat about death with Jonas. And he's like, maybe you should evaluate all your life decisions as he gets up.
Yep. I mean, Jonas should be taking this seriously, not lightly like us now. Yeah. He should be. Yeah. Actually, Jonas should be, he should be alarmed. I did notice his body language was like a little bit, whoa, what are you doing, guy? Which as he should be. You mentioned Noah. So it's clear that we had Elizabeth talking about Noah in 2019. And then we see Noah talking to Mikkel in 1986.
Oh, yes.
So we're like, okay, so we got this clean cut priest. He's real clean. Got a nice clean haircut. Looks like Jude Law. I think it looks like Jude Law a little bit. And then you got the other guy, Radiohead, Ike, and he's really dirty all the time and is disheveled and comes out of the cave, and I think there's just a big visual difference you're supposed to pick up on. We also pick up on the fact that it seems to me that even though we liked Noah talking to Mikkel, we're kind of gearing up to not like Noah because we don't know much about him. It's almost like we don't really trust him. We were talking about this last episode, just the way he's getting brought up.
Right. Well, we don't trust him because there's missing kids.
Yeah.
And there's a new priest in town.
But we also don't trust the stranger.
That's nothing. The stranger also, like both of them are shady.
Yeah. But it just seems to me that it seems like Noah is the one that leans more towards bad, and the stranger leans more towards I haven't seen him do anything that makes me suspicious of him yet. He's just a weird talker. I think you argue a little bit in his defense or in his offense. Because you mentioned about the dead bird he picks up at one point, but that's just like Charlotte. We like Charlotte. Yeah. But we do see a figure dragging bodies around wearing the exact same raincoat. So I shouldn't be too given of this guy. I guess I'm just trying to say that there's a big difference between Noah and the stranger here.
Yeah. Oh, well, you bring up one interesting point. That's not the point you were bringing up, but something you said struck a thing that I meant to bring up is, so far, besides Mikkel, with Mikkel, he was in 2019, he gets into the cave, he's now in 1986, right?
Right.
But he's the same person.
Yeah.
Everybody else is their older or younger self in the two time periods, except for Noah.
Right.
And apparently, but see, the thing is, we've only seen the stranger in 2019. We haven't seen him in 1986. So, but Noah,
True.
We see that he's the same age. So we're not seeing a younger Noah.
Right.
We're seeing the same Noah. So somehow he's able to go between the two time periods pretty easily.
And I'm just assuming that the stranger's doing time jumping too, because he keeps going in and out of the cave. It just seems apparent to me. And he knows the cave. He's got that map. But it took my third viewing to actually notice what you just said. Of course, I have all my notes. I've been paying attention to everything. I'm like, Noah did this, Noah did that. But it wasn't until the third time I watched it, which was yesterday, that I was like, wait a second. He would look exactly the same when he was talking to Bartosz as he did when he was talking to Mikkel. So that's an excellent point that I was going to make at one point, and you just made it for me.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, and that's another reason I feel like we don't trust him.
Yeah.
All right. So back in 1986, a dry cleaning van pulls up to the hospital, and Hannah is in the van with her father. So apparently he's a he's a dry cleaner. I was going to say he's a laundryman.
He's a dry cleaner
for corporate people, like for schools, for hospitals. And he's going to be 30 minutes, and she's waiting in the car. I related to this scene here, Steve. I always did a lot of waiting in the car when my parents and I did errands with my parents.
I did a lot of waiting in the car while I'm waiting for my daughter. So yes, I can relate too.
Yeah. She sees Mikkel sitting on the bench outside, opening his gift that Inez gave him earlier, and it's a book called Ich fürchte mich nicht. I'm probably saying that horrible, but it means I am not afraid. And it's by Henny M. Lonau.
Which has got to be an anagram.
Oh, good point. Good point. Yeah, I don't know.
Because this is a fictional book. You're correct about that, too.
It's a fictional book. Yeah, I couldn't find any, and this author or this book. And I am a children's librarian, everyone, so I know all the sources. And Hannah comes up to Mikkel because she remembers him coming to the school and asks him if he thinks that she's pretty.
She's direct.
Mikkel is like, I don't know. And then she tells him that she can do magic, which gets Mikkel's attention.
Yep.
Because he loves Harry Houdini.
She said the right thing. She said the magic words, didn't she?
Yeah. He does a magic trick with a bottle cap where he switches it from one hand to another, and he says that magic is just illusion. You have to do it skillfully in secret. I thought that was significant.
Okay.
And she seems really impressed. And, Mikkel is smooth here. She says, "You're cool." And he says, "Nope, I'm Mikkel."
Yeah, I love that line. I'm going to start using that from now on. Whenever people tell me I'm cool, which is all the time, I'm going to say I'm Mikkel.
Well, I think you could say I'm Steve. But that's funny. That's like a funny...
It is.
He's making a joke.
This whole scene is great. The background music is real, whimsical. And I wrote down meet cute. You said there was a meet cute earlier, but I think this was a real... Yeah. I think this is our real meet cute of the episode, is little Mikkel and Hannah here. And he doesn't seem quite as big and cool and tough as Ulrich. Seems like the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But I mean, he did one thing. He made her smile. She likes him already. Mm-hmm. She likes him enough to come sit next to him and talk to him. So, you know, this could be going places.
He smiles too. I mean, it's like it's nice. It's cute and everything. It's cute if it weren't for what happens next.
Well, yeah. Well, let's see. Before that, though, I wrote down Mikkel talks to her, which doesn't seem that significant, but it is significant because he doesn't talk to Inez. He's talking to her. He's talking to the priest. And, of course, her dad looks like Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I mean, I had to make note of that.
Yeah. It's interesting. We never see the... I won't say that. Never mind.
Okay.
The dad. Yeah, this is Hannah's dad. That's all.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to say about that.
He seems cool. I mean, he seems like he's looking out for her best interest, and he's.
Yeah.
I guess that's she rides around with him, so I guess they must have. I know from like riding around with my daughter in cars for hours and hours and hours. I mean, you develop a relationship. A relationship that way. So I mean, it's. I would think that
he seems like an attentive father. He's asked her, if she's okay. He's not like a burn Doppler. He's not just like, you stay in the car while I go to this. He's like, is everything okay with you? And checks in with her. And
to his fault, though, he believes everything that she says. He takes her seriously, and he listens to her. Which I mean, this is a good thing. These are good things that parents do. He takes her seriously and. She tells him some serious stuff, and he takes it to the limit. But we'll get to that in just a moment.
Okay, so in 1986, Ulrich and Katerina are inside the school. It looked like if there was gym equipment,
like a ping pong table.
A ping pong table and some balls hanging on the on the wall, and they are gonna have sex. And because Hannah is there with her dad, she's at the school, not in the same room as them, but she walks over to a window and sees them doing this, and spies on them, basically.
Yep.
And then. In 2019, Marta is at the high school practicing the school play. And this is all intercut scenes. It goes back and forth between them. And Jonas observes the rehearsal. Marta sees him watching in the audience. Bartosz calls to remind Jonas that it's time to meet the dealer. And Jonas ignores Bartosz's call. His always... I'll be there for you, bro. Doesn't hold any water at all.
Not when Martha's around.
Yeah. Martha's delivering this monologue about her mother and the stories that she would share about the old world. And the monologue speaks of a mother that would sometimes act cruelly when remembering the past and the character's father. And they talk about the red thread. So this is like Ariadne's thread somehow in this play.
Right.
And we're watching Ulrich and Katerina take a step that will move them closer to having kids, losing Mikkel, and leading the way to what Marta is feeling right at that moment. And so this isn't just a dress rehearsal, and it's not just a monologue. It's connected, of course, to the events in the show in some way, and that may not be as overt, as clear as we might like it to be, but it is just a powerful scene of visually, and we see that these stories are so connected between what's happening between, like, there's the sex, there's the couple's kids. It's a loaded scene, and I want to know what you think about this part, Steve.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to disappoint you here. I mean, I had to watch this scene multiple times to try to decipher meaning out of the words that she was saying here. And really the biggest takeaway I got was the thread, the red thread. That was my biggest takeaway. And it was so blaringly obvious too, because of what she was wearing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things happening in this scene, and I very much liked it, but I very much didn't take as much from the dialogue, the monologue, as I feel like I should have. Like when I read your recap, available at oneofmystories.com, when I was reading your recap, it really helped me because I was like, am I missing something here? And you helped me find that. So I'm just basically thankful for your thoughts there.
Yeah. Well, this is one of those scenes that as more goes on in the show, if you come back to it, you will find greater meaning in it for your third watch through, Steve.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But some of the lines she talks about, like nothing, something about like forgiven but not forgotten. And she says when she would speak of my father, she would pull my braids tightly. So it's clear that there's like a relationship between the mother and the father of abuse or dishonesty. And so I think even if you don't know the greater themes of the show and what's going to happen, we're looking at Ulrich and Katerina, who are building this, they're building their relationship here that is leading to dishonesty and eventual destruction of their family. And that's kind of what this play is about also, is that there's this family that gets torn apart in the end, and there's this red thread leading it all through, and Ulrich and Katerina are part of the thread and part of the cycle, the 33-year cycle.
Obviously they are part of it, yeah. Maybe get Mikkel here, and yes.
Yeah. And they did at a different scene, not this one, but the previous one, which I didn't say, but when she says no kids, and she tells him twice, I don't want any kids, they cut to Mikkel in the hospital, and that's when he sits down with the priest, and it's heartbreaking because you're like, your kid, you didn't want him, and now he's gone, so it's like.
I don't think that's the case, because I was thinking about that. They were having intercourse there. They were having protected intercourse. They probably didn't have any kids. They don't have any kids that are 33. Their kids are much younger than 33. So they've made a conscious decision to have the kids that they have. I don't think it was an accident, and especially Mikkel. I mean, he's the last born, so. I mean, I don't know.
But she does say no kids ever.
Right. She does.
And I mean, yeah, sure, she could have changed her mind, but I'm just saying, here's Katerina the bully,
She is, yeah.
who pushes him around, and she's like, I don't want any kids ever. Well, now he's gone, so you got your wish.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah, is it? It is.
Yeah. After the play practice ends, Marta is in the dressing room, and there's a knock at the door. It's Jonas!
Yay!
And he wants to tell her that during the time he was gone, he wasn't in France. He was actually in a nut house.
Yes.
And that he was too ashamed to tell her the truth. And he's kind of stuttering and trying to decide what he wants to say here, but he does want to know if what happened between them last summer was real. And she nods yes, and then they kiss. Yeah,
classic backstage scene here. And
classic backstage scene.
And he says here, like, he actually is talking here, like, if my father hadn't, saying, like, if his father hadn't killed himself, then things would be different with him and Marta, which is actually true. Which this is where you can, begin your head spinning a little bit. Like, maybe that was based on what we know going forward, we're not sure how much of a coincidence that is.
Well, while this is all going on, Bartosz waits alone for his meeting, and Noah pulls up in a town car and tells Bartosz to get in. The two drive off, and here again, we're wondering what is going to happen to Bartosz. Is he the next victim in the scheme?
At this point, it seems like it, that they're either going to have a drug situation or or he's going to be gone, just like Eric. Because Bartosz is not too old to be kidnapped. He's the same age as Eric. So, he's fair game. So, I was... you're a little nervous about the guy. And then you're like, wait a second, this Noah guy, that's, like I told you, it took me 3 viewings for it to slap me in the face. Like, he hasn't aged a bit since he was talking to Mikkel back in 1986. Still has that handsome Jude Law look about him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of Eric and, the missing boys, one thing I think is interesting is Yassine and Mads, I think, are, about the same, they're the same age, whereas Eric is a little bit older.
Yes.
So I thought that might be interesting.
Oh, yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, you got this range of kids here. Yasin's 8, Mikkel's 11, Eric is maybe 15, something like that. And we know that, what happened with Mikkel is he's not in the torture room, obviously, but yeah, you're right. That age difference is pretty significant. Yeah. And Elizabeth, at some point they show that drawing that Elizabeth described Noah to the sketch artist.
Yeah.
And boy, she got every detail down to a penny, didn't she?
Looks pretty good, doesn't it?
Looks fantastic. Looks just like the guy.
Back at the Nielsen house, Ulrich finds Katarina lying in Mikkel's bed. He gets in and embraces her from behind. She asks, "Are you cheating on me?" And he says, "I would never do that." And I was thinking, man, okay, with Charlotte, with Peter, she presented you the evidence. Katarina doesn't say, "I smelled her," but this was Ulrich's chance to make it right and come clean. And, at that, when not that it's great to be able to admit to your wife that, yes, you've been unfaithful, but this is a hard time for the family, and maybe this would have been the right time for him to admit, especially when the last scene, he's saying how ashamed he is that he's doing this, and he feels terrible. So why can't he just talk to her?
And then he wants to get Hannah off his back. What better way to get Hannah off your back than to admit the whole thing to your wife? So then you have an ally that can, help veer you away from Hannah. It seems like all the opportunity was just handed to the guy right here. And this was the time to take it. I mean, it's obvious that she knows. And I think he knows that she knows and all that stuff. And... yeah, he absolutely should have admitted it here, and because of everything they're going through with Mikkel being gone, it's not like that'd be the best time to admit to an affair, but at the same time, it kind of softens the blow. It's like having an affair is not as big of a deal as your kid being missing, in the grand scale of things. I mean, maybe to some people it might be worse, but I think really a missing child trumps an affair. And I think this is the right time to admit it, Ulrich.
Yeah. It is, Ulrich. You failed us. At the Kahnwald house, Hannah is deep in thought and wiping off makeup and other stuff like that. She flashes back to 1986, and another piece of our puzzle snaps into place, Steve.
Yep.
On the way back from the dry cleaning deliveries, Hannah decides to make up a story and tell her dad that Ulrich sexually assaulted Katarina. She doesn't say those words, but she's like, what do you do if you see something that somebody doesn't want to do and they did it anyway without, just the dad is just, he listens to his daughter and drives her to the station. Good dad again. Where Egon takes her statement, and as usual, he is thrilled that he gets to come up with this excuse to harass Ulrich. And she makes up all kinds of horrid details to make the story convincing that Ulrich choked her until her face turned red.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah. And we have parallel shots here of Hannah Ulrich and Katerina in both time periods. And in 1986, one of the things to notice is that Katerina has a black eye, which will make the story that Ulrich did this perhaps a little more convincing. But it is something to think about, is where did she get this black eye from?
Yeah, I saw that, but it didn't register to me until you just mentioned it, as a matter of fact. Wow, okay. Where did she get that black eye, Lindsay? I think we find out later, perhaps.
Yeah.
What I do know is that she was on tape. Hannah was on tape this whole time. So I'm thinking that tape must still exist in that office that Ulrich now works at. Obviously, Ulrich doesn't know that she did this. And Katerina doesn't know that she did this because they would have not be friends with her after this point,
right.
I would think.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, something that at this point only Hannah and Egon and her dad know at this point. Well, I guess the police officers too, but I guess I should say that, yeah. This episode is called Truths. She's lying. That's all. That's my last point.
Yeah. This was kind of a pivotal moment for our journey with Hannah.
It is.
Up until this moment, I've told you I feel sorry for her, that I relate to her, that we're kind of like, she's a scorned woman, she's sad about this, she's doing some dumb things, going to a person's house. That is not how you act.
Right.
If somebody's avoiding you, you don't show up at their house, even if it's an affair. It's not a good look. And this is where Hannah turns, she takes a step too far and becomes unlikable.
Absolutely. And I think all the steps were leading there. I mean, she was making like a little collage book of Ulrich, something like somebody obsessed would do. And I think she does have an obsession with him, and it's an unhealthy obsession. And we're seeing how bad it is now at this point. So like you said, we still want to have feelings for people even when they do terrible. I mean, not when they do terrible things, but you know what I mean. You want to have some forgiveness, but at this point in the story, we're all thumbs downing Hannah right now for every, like in 1986 and in 2019, both Hannahs are not showing their best colors right now.
Yeah. So the stranger walks out of the cave with his suitcase, and he's on a mission. He's on a mission from God. And then Bartosz gets out of Noah's car.
Thank goodness.
We have no idea what happened to him. They don't show. And of course, you're like, oh, did he touch him in his private part? It's just that's the first thought I had watching the first time, is like, is this sexual abuse? I mean,
I was thinking it was a drug talk. I didn't think
a drug talk.
I was relieved when he got out of the car, and that's what made me think, okay, this probably was just all about drugs. I mean, we don't know, like you said. I didn't think he was sexually assaulted, though. I got to say, my mind did not go there. He didn't look like he was traumatized.
No, but Bartosz doesn't have the look of somebody. I don't know. I feel like he's the kind of person he's not very emotive,
Yeah.
Like, all right. So Jonas comes home, goes up to his room to find a care package.
Yep.
The box that the stranger asked Regina to deliver. Inside the box, we have 3 items, Steve.
Yes.
Number 1, a lantern shaped like a globe that you touch it and it turns on. It's like a touch lamp.
It's a Dark Ways production cool flashlight. They love their cool flashlights.
So modern.
Yeah.
A Geiger counter and the letter we saw in episode 1, written by Mikkel Kahnwald. Only the letter is really beaten up.
Yeah.
And looks like it's been through some wear and tear since it was last seen. which begs the question, how did it get there? The last time we saw the letter,
right?
It's in the box.
It was in good condition.
That Inez has.
Yeah. It was in fine condition in that box. It was unopened. Pristine condition in that fine wooden box. And yeah, it's almost like the letter was tossed in there almost as an afterthought, even though it's the most important thing in the box. It's like just down there at the bottom. And yeah, you're right. Significantly torn and tattered and showing its age. As if it was in the bottom of a pile of junk and discarded. Mm-hmm. So yeah. A little interesting. Like it makes me wonder how it could be the same letter, but it is, I guess. We get to read it this time, though.
Two letters? Are there two letters? Is this the time, people used to make three? I wrote 3 copies of the letter, and I put one here and one there and one here. But, yeah, it does sort of make you go, well, did the stranger and Inez know each other?
Right.
I don't know, yeah. Did Inez throw it in the dumpster, and then the stranger got it out of the trash can?
That's a quick turnover, though. That was just a couple days ago that she opened it up on November 4th or 5th or whatever. It's like 2 days later.
It's only been a couple days.
And remember how we said that, like, that picture, definitely, there was 2 different family photos that had, like, 2 different versions of the same family photo. So what you're saying right now, there could be 2 different versions of the same letter. I hope not. I'm thinking that this letter is.
I'm joking, but it does make you think, like, what happened to this letter?
Yeah.
So Jonas reads the letter, and we hear Mikkel Kahnwald's voice telling us the big reveal that Mikkel Kahnwald and Mikkel are one and the same. And after Mikkel disappeared, he had to make a life for himself in order to survive. And that the father that Jonas lost is the same person as... Sorry, that's not right. Erase all of that, Steve. The little boy that Jonas let go of his hand in 2019 is actually his father that he lost to suicide.
So is this where we start talking about time loops, I guess? Because this tells us, I mean, first off, this is the 3-step reveal. Like, the first one was really subtle. Second one was pretty subtle. And this third one was just kind of like, this is it. And they just tell you straight up. So sometimes, like, the first time watching it, perhaps, if you're only kind of half watching the show, you're kind of like, whoa, that just kind of came out of nowhere, didn't it? They gave you little hints. But so... Here we go. Here we go, some confusion. So Mikkel comes out of the cave, or Mikkel and all them. It's 2019. Mikkel's there holding Jonas's hand. That means that Mikkel had only committed suicide 4 months prior to that. So Mikkel, Jonas's dad, existed in the same time as Mikkel. So Mikkel over there in the Kahnwald household was observing over there at the other Nielsen household, like, oh, look, she's pregnant. Oh, look, she's pregnant with me. And look at how I'm growing. Look at what a little scamp I'm becoming. And, like, they existed in the same timeline. So how must that have been for not little Mikkel, because little Mikkel is living his life right now, but old Mikkel knows all this, and I don't know, it's kind of a mind blower, isn't it? Isn't that what we're supposed to have, is our mind blowns right now?
Yeah.
It worked.
Yeah, it's a mind blower. I'm gonna do the last little scene, and then I want to come back and talk about our mind blower.
Sure.
But the episode ends with the stranger walking into a shop filled with clocks, and he's carrying this suitcase, and the man inside the shop is none other than H.G. Tannhaus, the author of A Journey Through Time.
And that's what he wants to talk about. He wants to talk about time.
Yeah. And the interlude music is Me and the Devil by Soap and Skin.
Yeah, they're also known as the people who took a hand in the theme song to the TV show Dark. The theme show...
Soap and Skin are?
Yeah, it's kind of like a collab Apparat is actually Ben Frost's band. I don't know if you knew that or not. You probably did know that. And yeah, Soap and Skin is the band that I think does the vocals for the theme song, Goodbye. So so the song Goodbye is credited to Apparat and Soap and Skin.
Oh, okay. All right. Good to know. Good to know.
And Introvoid.
Arrangement by. So back to the big reveal.
Yeah.
There's a lot to, I don't know, contemplate. We had what we've been, we're kind of rooting for Jonas, right? To like,
Absolutely.
Hey, grab your girl. Here's Marta. They kiss. And now Jonas realizes that Mikkel and Mikkel are the same. So that means Marta is kind of related to him.
Yeah. And Ulrich and Hannah have a familial relationship as well. Like that's by any stretch of the imagination his daughter-in-law. Hannah is Ulrich's daughter-in-law because if Mikkel is Ulrich's
right. Yeah.
I mean,
and if like Katerina knows, for instance, that Ulrich is sleeping with Hannah, perhaps Mikkel knew that Hannah is sleeping with Ulrich, who's his father. And it's all very like
convoluted
Hamlet,
and crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It
really is.
And then
I didn't consider the Martha relationship though. So you're right. That would make Martha like his aunt then, I suppose, in that respect.
Yeah.
But kind of. I mean, does Jonas like? I would believe it. I'm gullible. I would believe it. Is Jonas a true believer like me? Is he believe in this as well? Or does he we don't really know at this point if he's skeptical or if he takes it at full value. I definitely believe it though.
He's reading this letter, but it's that old cognitive dissonance, right?
Sure.
Something presents to you, you don't necessarily want to believe it, or you're not getting the full effect. It'd be a lot. I mean, it's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
I'm guessing he probably not taking in the full ramifications of every single aspect at this point. He's just like, Mikkel is my dad, and Jonas might feel like, just like Magnus does, a little responsible for, they all probably feel responsible that Mikkel disappeared, including Jonas, and he's the one that was with him. So now he's like, I let down Mikkel. He was feeling bad about that, and now he's realizing that was my dad. And also the coolness that, remember when Mikkel disappears is when he sees the vision of his dad in the woods.
That's right.
Is the same at the same time when Mikkel, it's like one and the same. When Mikkel disappears, my dad appears, who's just killed himself in this vision.
So I guess we know now that that's almost like a prophetic vision that Jonas had. Like his dad wasn't actually there in the woods at that moment, but Jonas had that vision. And I guess time did kind of at that moment. Because that's something I wondered too. Maybe you can answer. Like he was holding Mikkel's hand, and then Mikkel just kind of disappears.
Well, the lights flickering, and it's dark, and he loses Mikkel's hand, and then when the lights come back on, Mikkel's gone.
Sure. So I guess we're to take it that, because he comes out of the cave in the next episode. So I guess we're just to take it that, like, in the confusion, like, Mikkel just ran back to the cave, I suppose.
We do find out later how it all happened.
Okay.
But yeah.
I won't get ahead of myself then.
Mikkel somehow got from that spot to somewhere else.
Yeah, and I feel like, they're answering some questions for us pretty easily here. Like, they're basically handing us some of these answers, which tells me that there's other buried questions that we might be missing. And I guess we're going to be finding all that out because we still don't have a really cohesive tie-in with Charlotte, Peter, Elizabeth, and Francisca yet. They're all still a mystery at this point. They're kind of giving us some big clues about the mysteries of the Kahnwalds right now, but we still don't know anything about those folks over there in the Charlotte household, whatever their last name is. The Dopplers. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's just setting up this cord, this a knot.
Ariande's thread.
Right.
They do mention something about a knot too at one point. She says something about a knot in her speech, I remember. And that made me think about the knot in the show. I think that Jonas probably is making these same realizations as quickly as we are. If he takes into account that Mikkel is his dad, then he has to put two and two together and tie his family in with Mikkel's family and see how they're related. Yeah. He's a bright boy. I know he can do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sure, he is. It's a lot, but I'm just saying it's a lot to take in.
It is. He should be freaking out. And I'm sure he is. I know he wants to go back to those caves, though. That's something that he's really into. And now I think he has more direction to his caves. Now he has a Geiger counter, and now he has a cool lantern. So I think that's where everything is pushing him, is to the caves.
He's got lights. He's got the Geiger counter. He's got a map with a new red thread marked off so he knows which way to go with a giant arrow that the stranger put there for him.
Yep. But yeah, I like how this episode ends, in that little time shop. I've always, maybe because I saw something when I was a kid about a guy who sits in a clock shop all day and is a wizened old figure. And I think that's kind of almost a trope sometimes. But I don't know. It's great. And I love the fact the stranger goes in there, wants to talk time with this smart scientist dude.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to more, Lindsay. I'm so glad we're doing this.
Yeah. He's like, now that I've set Jonas up to discover the letter, now I'm going to go take a vacation and hang out with this old dude in a clock shop.
That's right. It's like he's down in Cape Cod or something. But I got to assume this clock shop is in Winden, right? Well, I don't know. I can't assume that because, the dude, stranger dude said he's going to be gone for a couple of days. And then we see him go into the cave, but then he goes into the clock shop. So, there's no indication that's in Winden. I just made that connection just because everything else is happening in Winden. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's okay to assume that. I'm going to keep on assuming it. It's the Winden clock shop.
Winden clock shop, yep.
But yeah, Lindsay, I think I don't have any other thoughts for this show right now. Do you?
I don't. This is a great episode. Has a big reveal. So I think it's time to get into our character awards.
Oh, yes, definitely. Am I going first or do you want to go first? I'm going to give you that choice.
You can go first this time.
Okay. I decided to give my favorite character award to a guy who's been overlooked this whole time, and he finally is getting some stuff done. He's finally getting his name out there. Congratulations, Jonas. You're my favorite character this episode because I want to see how you're dealing with this, and I want to see you into those caves. You gave Martha a smooch. I'm happy for him. So I got to give it up for Jonas this episode. How about you?
I'm gonna give my best of for this episode to our buddy Noah.
Noah, really?
Noah.
That's a shock.
Noah, the hot priest.
Okay.
You know, that character in Fleabag is called the hot priest. And no, we got our own hot priest here on Dark. But I liked, we've been waiting for the arrival of Noah.
Sure.
He has a great entrance. He knows how to talk to kids so that they open up to him.
That's true.
And sure, he might be a serial killer, but that doesn't mean he's not a great character, Steve.
That's true. Okay. I'm just really surprised by that answer, but I can't fault you one bit because he wasn't like evil or anything. I liked how he talked to Mikkel as well. Mm-hmm. All right, going on to our worst character here.
I have a feeling we might be in alignment on this one again.
Well, maybe we can narrow it down then. Do we dislike Hannah in 2019 or we dislike Hannah in 1986 more? I'm not sure, but it's definitely...
Do we have to pick one or the other?
I don't think
so.
The
character? Yeah.
I think we can just say Hannah takes the cake this episode. Like last episode, it was obviously Peter. This episode, it's obviously Hannah. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. I mean, I could give it to Ulrich, give a secondary sneeze ball to Ulrich just because he's being a creep. But I mean, Hannah just outdid herself this episode, being as despicable as possible. I mean, accusing somebody of assault and going in and making a tape and making up horrid details when Egon already hates Ulrich. And she's just given more fuel, even though we don't like Ulrich either. Yeah, and falsely accusing somebody of sexual assault is a pretty big deal.
It is. And then later in 2019, when she's like, she should be understanding that Ulrich has just lost one of his kids, but instead she's trying to get to hook up with him and trying to steal him away from Katerina. And that's just as bad. I mean, maybe not as bad, but her intentions are the same. She's trying to get what she wants and doesn't care who she hurts along the way to get what she wants.
Mm-hmm. Very single-minded.
I tell you. And yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting how I liked Jonas the most and liked Hannah the least. I was like, oh, mother, not like mother, like son. It's the opposite of that today. But who knows? Yeah. Maybe next episode Hannah's going to save somebody's life. I don't know. Maybe she'll go in the past and she'll save young little she'll stop young little Hannah from 1986 from doing that. I can only hope that's what's going to happen next episode. Hannah goes and rescues herself. I don't think it's going to happen though, is it?
No future.
Nope. Well, we've got a future. We've got like one of our shortest episodes here, Lindsay. I don't know how that happened, but we got right to business. I guess I'm good.
Really? It's been 2 hours.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I guess so. My clock here says 108 minutes, which is 1 hour and 48 minutes, right?
Well, let's just seize the day then.
Seize it.
And seize it while we can and end it.
Alrighty. Well, you're going to find Lindsay over there at one of my stories, always doing reviews. You're going to find me at Intro Void, and I'm always doing podcasts and music. Hey, I got another song. It's almost ready. I just got to sing it, and then we'll be done. You got anything you're promoting before we run out of here, Lindsay?
No, you've already done a great job promoting me. I don't need to add anything else to that.
Alrighty. Well, I'll keep doing it then. So I guess until next week then when we watch episode 6, Lindsay, hope you always find some water and shade.
Ooh, Steve, I hope you find water and shade and a red thread, Ariadne's thread, to lead you deeper into the labyrinth until you get into the center and you see what's really going on.
Reel me in, Mama. I'm there. Bye.
Bye.